Nexus walked up in the house, boy Brandon's down to do a little hustle for the guys in town. Cunkin' on the left, Rothbard on the right. Hybrid green trees gon' be lit all night. 3D printed Glocks, 3D printed stocks. Satoshi revolution, crypto traded hawks. Shane with the Vanu, Sal with the crops. Wendy with the articles and anti-war blogs. Alongside Night, I thought I was dreaming. An underground party at a big stadium. Flexing on the haters, unregulated gators. Is that Florida man on a service elevator? Walking with a dish of underground fruit. No taxes found on the watermelon scoop. I took a quick bite, and to my delight, never tasted so sweet, so good and so right. Agorist drip, black market click, move a quick flip, can't regulate this. Agorist drip, black market click, move a quick flip, can't regulate this. Agorist,
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 Nexus, Agorist,
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 Agorist.
SEK the third, my man, my word, a manifesto, a measure to serve. Check the library and it will be heard. Agorist Nexus connects the word. Want the transfer, gotta decentralize. Trade outside the state, keep anonymized. The state is the root for the victimized. Starving the beast, salvation realize. Wake up and see that change will preside. Choosing to spend your money and time outside the lies. Don't give a dime to tyrannical bribes. It's time to rise up and be unified. Join the revolution starting inside. An instrumental part of Agora worldwide. Agora worldwide, Agora worldwide. Counter economics. Agorist drip, black market click, move a quick flip, can't regulate this. Agorist drip, black market click, move a quick flip, can't regulate this. Agorist,
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 Nexus, Agorist,
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 bringing that gray worldwide. Agorist, Agorist.
I'm Brandon, this is the Agorist Nexus podcast. I've got my great co-host Dag with me. How you doing, Dag?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the new intro, thanks to the Philosopher and Jack v. Lloyd. Nice little rap song there.
Cool, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sent me that this morning. I was like, oh shit. I was listening to it. I was just like smiling. I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. Oh shit.
Represent.
Well, glad we a little bit of a vacation there, man. How long has it been since we've done an episode? It's been a week or two.
Yeah, since Float Fest, pretty much. This episode, I'm always excited for these Endgame episodes. I think they're just crazy interesting. So I really like them. And
number 84. What are we on now?
Yeah, Endgame 5, I believe. So
I think that sounds about right.
Right.
So,
yeah, and you guys don't have to listen to previous Endgame episodes too. You can just cut into this one if you'd like. But the other ones are super interesting too. And as always, we'll have all the links down below for you.
Cool. Well, I guess we should go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsors, Presearch, decentralized search engine. No spying, no censorship. Cool crypto coin that you actually get, like, just for searching, you get some crypto out of it. So that's pretty cool. They're actually paying you to use their product instead of getting paid selling your information to use their product. So, really cool. Presearch.org, or we have a link over on the Nexus as well. So you can, hit it up through there and, get us some credit that way too.
Yeah, there's all kinds of free ways to support us. So if you hit that link. Another thing too I love about Presearch is you can seamlessly change between search engines if you want. Most of the time I'm just using Presearch because I think it's just laid out so well, and they don't censor searches. Also, you can keyword stake. Keyword staking is great for advertising. Pick a word and bid on that word, and whoever wins gets to stay on top of the page, which is extremely important nowadays. I guess most people don't even go past the first page in terms of searches. So
Yeah, and it's very uncluttered because they just, especially like on the desktop, especially, there's one ad. There's one ad. That's it, and it's whoever's got that keyword. So it's really clean, and it's another thing that's really neat about the keyword staking that I love is because it's like, like, okay, so let's say you have like a crypto like coin, and you just hold it, and like, okay, that's cool, it's there, but like when you're staking it, like staking a keyword, like it's working for you. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you're holding this, but it's also providing you value other than just sitting there in your wallet. It's doing advertising work for you. So it's really cool. When we get a coin that actually has some sort of utility, it's definitely bonus points.
yeah, for sure. We definitely believe in the project. That's why we're, we wouldn't have taken the sponsorship if we didn't believe in it. So get off Google, guys, and go with a project that's led by anarchists.
It's so rare I even use Google anymore. It's like very specific things, and that's
Yeah,
it. It feels pretty good to be breaking those chains.
Right? Yeah, I use Google for like maybe if I want to double check my spelling or something. That's about it.
That is what I use it for too. Oh shit. So all right, well, I don't know, man. We want to jump into this thing?
Yeah, so definitely stay tuned for this, guys. Super interesting episode. I mean, there's so much going on now that hasn't been talked about in previous episodes. And I think there's some stuff in this episode that other people aren't talking about, and we kind of put it all into like a layout that is easily digestible and kind of ties everything together. So yeah, and man, where do we start, right? So we have talked about martial law before, and like how they're going to achieve it. Because if they can get martial law, they can pretty much just destroy the Constitution. When they do that, I mean, if they get martial law, they can pretty much do whatever they want. And I think in previous Endgame episodes, we were like, well, how are they going to get martial law? And I think one of the easiest ways they can do it is through a mass power outage, which Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum was quote unquote warning about it. And with a mass power outage, it also gives them a lot of stuff, right? Fear, more dependency on government, helps with their Great Reset. It will destroy the economy, destroy businesses, mess up supply lines, give them martial law. It does so much. And then when you tie that into Bill Gates wanting to black out the sun, right? And what does that give Bill Gates? Well, he owns over half of American farmland. And so not only would blacking out the sun mess up crops all across the country, it would help destroy his competition pretty much in that aspect. Also, I mean, it would mess up all of these self-sustainable homesteaders in terms of their crops, solar power, you name it. And then, with the lack of sun comes less vitamin D, immunity deficiencies, and then that leads to vaccines. And we'll definitely get into vaccines later, but there's definitely a lot of incentive for them to do this.
I don't know, man. We've had a couple 90-degree days here already. I'm starting to feel like I've got some incentive for him to do that too. And really on the real though, guys, too, like
we caught him, guys. We caught him. Dag is part of the
hey man, I'm just saying that they might have some good ideas, but something like this, like even like New World Order or conspiracy stuff aside, like I mean, just for disaster or any number of other things that could cause some sort of mass power outage or some sort of sustained power outage, you should be prepared for something like that, no matter what, because like we have hurricanes here. And I mean, the last big one we had a few years back, we didn't have power for 9 days, so it's something, you need to be prepared for at any rate, it's part of being ungovernable, right? Is like, let's be where we don't need them. So, first and foremost, if you live in a city, my recommendation is get the fuck out, because you're really, without electricity, you're really limited in a city. And just get a generator, get some solar panels, something, and I just I'm not going to get something that like runs my whole house, but if I can get a big enough power system with some solar panels, wind turbine, and batteries that can run, a couple freezers, and a fridge, that's huge. Something where I can click on my well for, a few minutes a day, something like that's huge. So, definitely try to be prepared, no matter what might happen with thing like this. There's a lot you can do. And if that is sort of something you're looking to get some help on or anything, feel free to hit us up. Feel free to hit me up. It's, a little bit of prepperness is kind of my specialty. So, we can definitely hash out some solutions. So, sorry. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, with the mass power outage, I mean, at that point, it's almost too late, right? Because the gas pumps aren't working. The water's not running. And I think that there's a TED Talk that we were both watching. I don't have the title on me by hand, but we'll definitely put it in the link. Do you know what the title of that is?
I do. There's several TED Talks sort of on this subject, to be honest.
What was the one that I sent you, though?
Yeah, this one is
called
A Catastrophic Blackout is Coming. Here's How We Can Stop It.
Yeah.
Samuel Steinberg.
Yeah, that one. And in it, he talks about some pretty interesting stuff. Like, it's going to be, if you mess up some of their equipment, it's hard for them to get that right away. So they have to order it from out of the country. They have to try to ship it to different power utility locations. And the problem is that some of this equipment is so big and so heavy that it can't go across, it can't really get to certain areas easily.
Yeah, it can go on bridges. They were saying that like a lot of it was brought by train, and the train tracks don't exist anymore because this was many decades ago.
Yeah, a lot of the train tracks have been decommissioned that they used to ride those in on, and all this other stuff.
Yeah, and this is one of those things too that I say stuff like this all the time, where it's like stuff, even if it doesn't start off as like a psyop or something, right? Like even if something actually happens that isn't like the NWO doing it, or whatever, it's they could use that, they could still use that. So even if they're not the ones knocking out the power, any disruption of power from a solar event, or if it was actually legitimately terrorism, or like what this guy's talking about in the TED Talk, some incident in 2013 where some people with AK-47s like did a lot of damage to a substation, and they still don't know who did it. Like they never caught them, so there could be any number of things that do it. But we know that any disaster is an opportunity, to be used, against us, or to scare us, or to, ask for more government control.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even if it's not planned by them, that they're still going to use it to their advantage.
Yeah, they'll jump all over that shit.
That's a very good point. And I want to talk about 2 weeks of this, right? So what happens if you don't have power for 2 weeks? Well, you've got grocery stores that will be empty due to trucks not being able to get there because the pumps are off. You'll have all these different issues.
It won't be able to operate without power. I mean, they don't have lights. It won't have air conditioning.
Yeah, they won't have lights, refrigeration.
They won't have cash registers. They won't have any of that stuff.
Yep. And there's a lot of things that we take advantage that we just don't think about when the power's off. Like he was saying in the video that after 2 weeks, your water treatment plants for sewage, can't be processed very easily. So, and then it overflows, so it goes into the groundwater and messes up other clean water that's going out to.
Probably rivers, oceans, all that nonsense.
Yeah, and I mean, think about how many water treatment plants there are in the country, right? So, if you knocked
I
out
mean, shit.
power in the whole
Yeah, I mean
country,
that happens now. Even when things are, I mean, St. Pete, not far from me, they have issues when it rains too much that all the treatment plants like overflow and like just goes out into Tampa Bay. And that's when times are good. Municipal systems suck. So yeah, they obviously they'd be much worse. A
and
situation
then
like
you're
that.
like, well, I'll just, well, if that happens, I'll just boil water. Well, you don't have power, so
Hmm.
make sure you keep a good stash of like propane and some kind of stove, right? But in that case, I mean, the stores are going to run out of stuff quickly. So again, it's it might be too late at that point. And if you don't have any propane or anything, you're you could be in a lot of trouble. And this also kind of helps with um, knocking out power. That's going to help with global warming, right? Knocking out power could kill a lot of people, especially from disease from contaminated water. A lot of people could get cholera and stuff. So there's that. And what else, Dag?
I don't know. I mean, just general breakdown. I mean, I'd have to assume anything like that would be, like it caused a lot of fear, right? And that'd be the big thing.
Yeah, fear,
Somebody come help us.
yeah,
Yeah.
dependency on government. The National Guard would be deployed. You'd be dependent on them for rations or
Yeah.
whatever.
And I really, I mean, this is just one of those things that it's like I have such a hard time with it, like because like the country's so big. I feel like a lot of this kind of stuff would primarily affect more urban areas. Because like out here, like where I live, it's like I don't know, man. Everybody has food stored. Everybody has generators. Because we live a little more ruggedly. That being said, though, like I mean, like I've lived pretty ruggedly, but like the thought of not having electricity is awful. Like I'm very dependent on that, still. But it's like, but at any rate, I guess like it's like, yeah, like in the cities, people are really gonna be clamoring for help because they're really gonna not be able to handle themselves. Like what do you do? I mean, you live in an apartment, you can't go outside and forage for food, right? I mean, if you have a few acres or you live in a more rural area, you can I don't know, man. You can find food, you can find water. We have other methods of getting water out of the ground than relying on city water. So at any rate, I don't know, man. I have to wonder what they would. Are they just going to focus on the cities if they go to something like this? I mean, can they really control and regulate the vast amounts of countryside that effectively? It'll certainly be a lot easier if we don't have electricity, I suppose.
I mean, so the problem with our power grid is that, especially the U.S. power grid, I don't know too much about other countries, but I'm assuming that it might be similar there. But
Probably.
but the problem with our power grid is that some of it hasn't been upgraded due to like all of these climate change activists. And another thing is that it's really intertwined and connected. So when the power went out in New York City in 2003, it brought down like the whole entire Northeast and even Canada, parts of Canada. And that's because when one major grid goes down, they've got like a reserve system where it starts feeding from other places. But the problem is that if it feeds from another place and it's too much for that one to handle, then that one goes down, and it's almost like a domino effect. And then that's what we saw with the New York City blackout in 2003. And so yeah, I mean, I could see it hitting, easily a fourth of the country if something like this were to happen. I think it's just a matter of when, not if.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, one way or another, something like that's going to happen, whether or not it's on purpose or not. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
it
and
happens.
what does he say in that TED talk that I mean, it could be, cyber terrorism or equipment malfunction
Yeah.
or
Physical attack or the solar flare. That's always the one that scares me. That's like an earthquake. It's something that just happens. Like you can't like predict it, and there's only so much you can do to prevent. And you can't prevent an earthquake. I mean, there's only so much you can do to prepare. That's the way to say that.
yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, they just happen. He gives an example in early 2000s, late 90s, maybe something where one hit like Alberta or somewhere in Canada and caused all sorts of crazy damage. And yeah, it's just
We usually have one like every 100 years or something. So I mean, we're due. I think the last really big one was like in the 1800s or something when it knocked out a bunch of
I think he said like 1859. Yeah, it blew up all the telegraphs, and people were like, "Who cares? We don't use telegraphs," But obviously, it's a different story now, And then another one he also mentioned was I guess if you explode a nuclear weapon 30 kilometers above a target, it'll fry the electrical stuff underneath it. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but that's what he claims. So basically he was saying that somebody could do that, to us or a targeted thing, some sort of attack. But I don't know. I'd have to assume that'd be kind of silly for a nuclear powered country to do that. I mean, it would be North Korea or Russia, but I mean, obviously we have tons of nukes pointed at them, and I don't think anybody really wants to start a nuclear war. And I think that would be considered a act of aggression, warrantful of something like that, to a lot of people. So
yeah, I mean, I could see the like the FBI or the CIA. I mean, terrorist cell, rogue terrorist cells,
right,
doing it.
Well, even like what's the
the FBI and the CIA did never do something like that to
Didn't they accidentally like drop a nuclear bomb in like North Carolina or something like decades ago, like while they were transporting it? And it was something like a miracle that it didn't go off, right? But it's like if it did, like they wouldn't have fessed up to, oh, that was our bad. We accidentally dropped this nuclear bomb. You know what I mean? Like, fuck no, they blame that shit on somebody else. They blame it on another country, and we go to war with them. Like there's no way they'd fess up to that shit. So, so yeah, I don't know. I think they're pretty.
Yeah, they would just use it like, we're investigating ourselves. It was these guys, and
definitely whoever we've already been itching to go to war with.
but the wasn't the FBI was caught for pulling some red flags. I remember that one. Oh man, it's hard to think of all the details, but there's that one they thwarted where it was like FBI thwarted FBI terror attack or something.
Oh, well, I mean, in that sense, dude, no, it's like 99% of the terrorist plots they bust are ones they set up to the point where it's not something like a secret. It's just what they do. Like they find somebody who's like, a disturbed, mentally ill loner who like isn't violent, and they like, they throw this stuff like they pretend to be whatever, some extremists, and they get them all riled up. And like what they even use like against like Islamic people is they say things like, oh man, isn't it fucked up how the U.S. blows up, like kills all these innocent civilians over in the Middle East, and like they use that, like they use like blowback, like in its actual sense. So anyhow, trick, convince these people they need to do this. They say, oh, I'll provide you with the bomb, and they give them a fake bomb, and all this. But it's like, yeah, man, that's all stuff they foil, And there's even instances. There was like a Muslim church, what do you call it, a mosque, like. They called the FBI, and there's like, yeah, there's this like guy here, and like he's a little like an extremist, like it's like we think he might be like a dangerous like terrorist person, and it was a fucking FBI like undercover guy like trying to get other Muslim people to agree to do terrorist shit, and like they call the FBI on him. They're like, yeah, there's this guy here, we think he's a terrorist. So yeah, I mean, they're bad about that sort of shit. They're fucking awful.
Yeah, and I mean there's a lot of incidences that they knew about that they just let slide, like the underwear bomber. I think they knew about the guy who was going to shoot up the place in the Colorado shootings, and there's a long list of cases where they knew that it's going to happen, but they're like, we'll just let it happen. And
they knew 9/11 was going to happen, and they let it happen too. That's probably the biggest
there's
one.
so much evidence where they knew. Okay, there's this, that, and this, and But
talked
yeah,
about
I mean,
that TED
I don't
Talk
want to get
video.
into 9/11 too much because I'll be on a rant for
Yeah,
like
we
2
got plenty
hours.
to go over. Yeah, where are we here on our list today? I think next up, or should we be talking about this whole Mr. Burns blocking out the sun scheme?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it, but yeah,
That's
go ahead.
Okay, yeah, and I got a couple things on that. A, it's hilarious, Mr. Burns blocking out the sun, blah blah blah. But even in that episode, one of my favorite lines when Smithers betrays him, he's like, you've gone too far. He crossed over the line from regular everyday villainy into cartoonish super villainy. He talks about blocking out the sun. Like, oh, that's a trip. But I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't know really what to think about this. I feel like there's so from what I'm reading, well, it's like, okay, it's not by him. He's helping fund it. But of course, it says undisclosed. So that means he could be funding 100% of it. But at any rate, I guess what I didn't even say when they're supposed to be doing this in a couple months or whatever. They're releasing this balloon in like Sweden or something. And I guess it's supposed to be a test. So it's supposed to figure out how these particles interact with each other. But it's like basically chalk dust. And they're actually only releasing like 4.5 pounds of it for this test. So what they're doing here this summer or whatever isn't gonna like do anything, right? But obviously this is something that they're doing as a test, so they might be looking to do it on a larger they're obviously looking to do it on a larger scale. So I always worry about implication anytime that they try to do some grand thing like this, and I say they in just the general sense, I mean anything like when they like the GMO mosquitoes or something that are supposed to make the mosquitoes die out. It's like, okay, like, yeah, a lot of people die of diseases from mosquitoes, malaria, etc. And that's bad. I'm not saying that's good or I want that to continue, but there's just always unforeseen implications when you start playing around with nature like this, like, because those mosquitoes are also a big part of the food chain. So what else might fall, domino kind of effect, if you just take out mosquitoes, just eliminating mosquitoes from the planet, I don't think is a good thing, overall. I mean, who knows, but that's the things we don't know, but with any of this stuff with the global warming people, it's just really like how full themselves they are, the hubris or whatever, that they think that they are going to be able to determine the temperature of the Earth in 100 years, because that's what all this is about. We need to lower the temperature of the Earth by so much, in 100 years, blah, blah, blah. And it's like the fact that you think that you can know what the ideal temperature of the Earth is, or that you can have that control to actually accurately do that, it's just silly. And it's just because, like science is like typically, I mean, like historically wrong, right? Like something always comes out and has better science, and so okay, we didn't actually understand how that worked. This is how it works. I mean, look 100 years ago from now, like the state of science, and it's like you wouldn't want a doctor from 100 years ago or anything like that, working on you. So same kind of thing with this, just I don't know, man. It's just people who think they know a lot more than they do, and that's really what worries me with this, because yeah, I mean, what are they going to try next year or 10 years from now that could, take global, climate change, supposedly, global warming, whatever, to being the opposite, where we actually have problems with being too cold because whatever stupid thing they did that now we can't fix, So I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm not really too worried about, whatever they're doing this summer, but it's just this overall thing, it's just really scary. I guess one other thought I have on it is it's almost like they do stuff like this where it's like, okay, like this thing you're doing, like, let's say this year, maybe it's not a big deal, but obviously, it's easy to say, like, oh, he's blocking out the sun, and for people like us to say, look at this is crazy, this is crazy, and all the normies and people who are really on board for the global warming thing, and people who like Bill Gates anyhow, it just makes us look like more crazy conspiracy theorists, and I think it just really enhances that divide, so the people who are already like pro Gates are going to be more pro Gates, because it's almost like people like us like get used. I know this happens. It's almost like conspiracy theorists get used by the powers that be to give cover to themselves, isn't that like the concept behind like a limited hangout? They show just a little bit of what's going on and then it gives them some cover. So I don't know. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it just makes us look anti-science and crazy when we go, hey, look at this. This might be something to be concerned about.
Or they
And
or they groom you, like, or they'll show a whole bunch of stuff in Hollywood, and you're like, oh well, that'll probably just be normal, right?
Yeah.
I think one of my issues with this is that with blocking out the sun, it being just a test is kind of concerning because, well, I mean, they could easily be like, oh, well, the test went wrong. It just went. The test went wrong. We didn't mean to do it like that. And have tests failed? Absolutely. Nuclear tests, people being, guinea pigs and not really knowing. Like all the soldiers watching the atom bomb test and stuff, being close up in Nevada and stuff like that. And so, I mean, tests have gone wrong, and when you're talking about blocking out the sun, it's very alarming.
It's
So,
hard to come back from that
especially
one.
from somebody who owns half of America's farmland, and it doesn't really need to do anything with that farmland. They've got enough wealth to not really need to do anything with that farmland for a really long time. They can just wait till everybody's wiped out, and there's no supply, so the demand is super high, so prices are super expensive, and then they come in to save the day, right? And make billions
Thank
of
God Bill
dollars
Gates
more.
bought all this farmland. He gets to come in and save us.
Yeah, exactly. So, now we're eating like insect protein, but still.
That 3D printed steak sounded pretty good right about now.
So, yeah, I think that pretty much covers that topic. Was there anything else you wanted to?
That's all. No, that's all I got on that. It's generally disconcerting, but this particular test probably won't be a big deal. But who the fuck knows?
Right. Now, when you tie that in with let's say they do eventually block out the sun, right? You tie that in with like a power outage, mass power outage, and that's going to mess up all of your solar and everything like that too. So it's going to that could eliminate all the people who are who've prepped or are self-sufficient.
Well, yeah, and also it's funny because they push for they've been building tons of solar farms around us down here, and it's like they push for this, and then they want to do something that might render that a little less, useful. It's kind of interesting.
Right. Yeah, it is.
Oh, we have one other thing that some people have said, who are booing this. They're because they're big in climate change people, and so a lot of critics are arguing that this type of solar engineering could backfire by giving politicians an excuse to delay reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And it allowed people to think, oh, I can just pollute all I want, because this is helping. Which of course then I have to ask, well, if it really worked, would it matter? Couldn't we just continue to use cheap energy? It's like they just have this hatred for oil for whatever reason. If it didn't matter, what would be the case? But anyhow, I don't know. The whole thing's just silly.
Yeah, it's almost like it doesn't matter what topic you're all of a sudden they're saying ACAB, and then they're wanting to police to go door to door to confiscate your guns.
Oh yeah, or say defund the police, and I have people say, "Oh, defund." They don't want the police defunded. They just want federal cops. They.
I mean, I want them defunded, but
Yeah, I would love them to actually be defunded and have private security, but of course that's not what they mean when they say that. So,
right,
bullshit. So anyhow, what's next?
What's next? Let's go into gun laws.
All right, cool. That's what I had.
I think I think gun laws are going to help with their with an Endgame scenario too. So,
Well, now
do
that mass
you want to go
shootings are
over?
happening again, since they
Yeah, all of
took
a
a nice
sudden
break, huh?
Biden's in office, and all these people are like,
So,
All right, guys, we got to take a break real quick and give a big shout out to our sponsors, Devault Cryptocurrency, ticker symbol DVT. Really excellent coin, a lot of cool features, working on privacy with Terraform. And what else they got going on over there, Brandon?
they're coming out with DeFi, and it's a proof of work coin, but you can stake it, and you're like, well, what does that even mean? Basically, you stake it, and you get it's like a think of it as like interest, right? Like how a bank would do it, except it's not a bank. You hold it, nobody can touch it, and you're getting interest off of it, which is great. And it's super easy. Like you would think this would be complicated. It's super easy. You can stake. It took me 2 seconds, and even my grandma uh, could figure that out. So I was super impressed with the innovations on this coin, with how super easy it was to stake it and get interest from it, and yeah, with such a small cap coin, their team is so innovative. We definitely could see great things coming out of this coin. So check it out. Not financial advice, but they're definitely worth looking at. So yeah. With that said, we'll get on with it.
so yeah, there's a couple things going on now, and I mean, as Agorist, how much do we care? Like, I think we should know what's going on, but ultimately, it's like, all right, just more areas for us to dabble in. Worst case, but yeah, there's basically a couple things going on. One, there are two bills that passed the House, still go through Senate, so who knows what that'll actually mean or happen. But basically, one of them is um for the background check loopholes. They always call them the gun show loopholes or whatever. So basically they're going to say no matter what, there has to be background checks, universal background checks. And then the other one is, I guess, typically, or there's a law currently that if the background check takes more than 3 days, you just get the gun. And they want to extend that to 10 days, so give them extra time. I don't know how much that'll actually matter. Anytime I've ever had one, it's been a matter of minutes, that it's taken even in like the busiest times. So I don't know if that's a regional thing or it's different in different places, but it's never even been an issue for me. And then the other one, what was it? There's background checks, and then I think it was like assault vans or high capacity magazines or whatever they're calling them. But yeah, that was it. And then the other thing is he wants to do something, but they haven't really laid out how they would do it, because I don't know how they would do it to get, quote unquote ghost guns or 3D printed guns, under control. Which they talked about, having background checks when you order firearms online, which you already have one at your FFL dealer anyhow, so that one's silly. I think that they were saying anyhow about the 3D printed guns was they're gonna like ban the sale of the files, which I think that they legally have a better ground to stand on than just sharing them, because sale, commerce, and isn't that how like the government gets their claws in a lot of stuff, is once it's commerce, they're allowed to regulate it. But I mean, I don't know. I think most of the 3D printed guns aren't necessarily for paid for files. They're free. They're out there. They're on the internet. It's a speech thing. So it's I really don't know what they would do there, in order to do something that'll legally stick. Because I mean, anything they do that's significant is going to be legally challenged, and I think in a lot of cases they don't really want to have a court decision on this stuff, and especially when it comes to 3D printed gun files, because that really is a First Amendment thing. And I don't know. I don't know a lot of the deets, but there's some like interesting stuff where it's something to the effect of like it has to do with like arms sales. So like if they like try to really regulate that, it's something like the U.S. government will have a hard time legally selling weapons to like Saudi Arabia and all those places that like to sell weapons to, but that's really more of a Cody Wilson kind of thing. He's better at that than I am, but it's something along those lines. So I don't know what they're going to do or what they're going to be able to do in that regard for 3D printing guns. So I don't know, but they're going to try something. I do have a really interesting line here, though, if I can find it, from old Chuck Schumer talking about the opportunisticness of these things. What was it? So I've been really out of the news the last couple of weeks. While I find this, so you can help me. There was a couple shootings that were a big deal. One of them was a Syrian. Was it a Syrian person who shot and killed a bunch of people? And isn't this like after we recently like bombed Syria? But of course we need to restrict, Americans' gun rights instead of just stop bombing people. And then
yeah, it was something like that.
Was that the Colorado one, or was the Colorado one a different one?
No, that's the Colorado one. Where he
that
killed like 10 people. Yeah.
And was that the one with the killed a bunch of Asian people? So that's why I've been seeing everything about how I'm supposed to be nice to Asian people all of a sudden.
No, I think that was in Atlanta.
Oh, that was the Atlanta one. Okay. I even had to ask my wife. I was like, why am I seeing all this stuff about stop Asian hate today? What happened to Asian people? And I think it had something to do with that. I could be wrong.
I mean, I think Babylon B has a funny thing on that. Not to change the subject too much, but where they're like, man who says that Asian lives matter, Black lives matter, and Mexican lives matter is getting dangerously close to all lives mattering, or something like that.
I fucking love the bee. Okay. Oh, here's this quote. Okay, so this is by good old Charles Schumer. It says he reminded reporters of an unsuccessful attempt in 2019 to push gun legislation after two massacres just hours apart in Dayton, Ohio, and El Paso, and said this Democratic Senate will be different. But of course, when pressed, he declined to promise anything because they're just much talk anyhow. But it's just like he's just blatantly like saying, yes, we use tragedies to try to, slip shit in, when people are good and emotional. They're not shy about it. They're not above it. I don't know. I mean, it's not a surprise to us. It's just, makes me feel better about being correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's always problem, reaction, solution, and never let a good crisis go to waste, right?
Yeah, but I don't think they'll really be able to do anything effective, from their standpoint on guns unless, they really have, the will of a good portion of people, to do it, just because so many in like rural areas, like there's a big gun culture, there really is. But, to tie this all together, if something, terrible shit starts happening, it gives them more of a leg to do this. And of course, in emergency situations, as we've seen just in this last year, when there's a quote unquote emergency, they really don't have to abide by the laws. They do whatever the fuck they want. So when there's a hurricane, they come and confiscate guns, when there's...
Yeah, and they did that with Katrina, where they sent in the National Guard to... And then that wasn't even... I mean, police already kind of enforce gun laws, right? So they're already going against their own Second Amendment, which is like, shall not be infringed. So it doesn't matter, like, if you've got a fully automatic, unregistered, concealed, weapon, and police say that's illegal, that they're infringing on your constitution, Second Amendment constitutional right. So they don't even follow their own doctrine. But when you have the military do it, or a military branch like the National Guard do it, there's huge significance in that, because